It's another edition of WRAL Triangle 2. I'm Mark Bergen. He's Pat Welter. We'll get into this weekend's games when it comes to football. But, Pat, you broke yet another story about the UNC football team. This time talking about speeding charges involving a lot of the UNC football players. And I want to start our conversation tonight. How did you get the inclination that this is something that you should even look into?
Yeah, it's funny how things kind of like snowball, right? So after we broke the story after the Clemson game, just about the culture issues, the communication issues, the divide in the locker room at the time in the UNC football program, I've been working a lot of other angles. I've had people come to me with different things, and I've sorted through some of those tips. And then this one was one that you really couldn't ignore, right? Because it's court record. And I wanted to be careful that after we reported everything we reported after Clemson, there's a perception out there that there was some sort of agenda that we had. And that's simply not the case. Like, all this is about is shedding a light on how and why the results on the football field have been so far below what the expectation was for Bill Belichick and Chapel Hill. And when you talk about the culture issues, the challenges they had implementing their NFL model to the college game, that's a lot of the results of what you saw earlier in the season. And these speeding charges, and specifically the reckless charges, are something that dates back to a year. And the numbers were something you just couldn't ignore because we not only ran UNC's roster, we ran NC State's roster and Duke's roster. And we're talking about 20% of UNC's roster has a speeding charge, and 7 players had reckless, some of them multiple, and 5 of those players were players specifically brought in by Bill Belichick.
Yeah, when you talk about Belichick, you think about the investment in the money that they're spending as well. So, Pat, in your report, you teamed up with WRAL Investigates producer Randall Kerr, and this is a report you can read on WRAL.com as well. What I wanted to ask you, Pat, is what was the most surprising thing that you found in your reporting, specifically when it comes to the UNC players?
Yeah, I think it was that it wasn't just random players that nobody had necessarily had heard of when you're talking about the average fan out there. It was the 2 most egregious offenders were arguably two of Bill Belichick's most prized transfer recruits in Kamari House and Thaddeus Dixon. And I don't love having to name players in this, but they were ones that had reckless charges, and we felt that that was warranted to put their names out there. And in the case of Kamari House, multiple. We're talking 4 reckless counts for Kamari House, some of his court cases still pending. And when you go through the citations, officers even noting things like, quote, his Dodge Charger must be too much car for him, and noting that he'd been pulled over and warned multiple times. So even there's accounts that aren't even on the court record that are in the citation of times where they pulled him over and gave him a warning. Like, what led one officer to say that he had talked to House about his driving issues, and he put in the citation that this was no longer a behavior problem, or this was no longer a mistake, but a behavior problem when it came to Kamari House. And Thaddeus Dixon was the other one. He's got 4 speeding and a reckless charge. And kind of, I don't know if funny is the right word, but we're going back over the notes last week, Mark, and the records. And I find that, wait, there's a new one in here. Thaddeus Dixon had been pulled over again last week, and this time with a revoked license. So, people out there that might want to say, why is this a story? It's just speeding. Well, it's not just speeding. It's reckless. And we've seen people at other football programs like Georgia die from this kind of behavior. And we had a UNC student die in a car crash that was adjacently related to some former UNC football players last year. So, yeah, this is relevant. This is a story.
You mentioned the Georgia players. You mentioned the UNC case that we saw within the last year. I also think about anyone listening or watching this, just give Henry Ruggs a Google search and see what you find when you talk about what the worst case scenario could be when it comes to potentially life and death when you're driving so fast. And so when you mention Kamari House, 5 speeding and 4 reckless driving charges, Thaddeus Dixon as well having, you see here in my notes, 4 tickets for speeding and 1 for reckless driving. Gavin Gibson, 1 reckless driving charge and 4 speeding tickets. Pat, you also mentioned two cases that caught our eye as well from NC State. Wesley Grimes accused of going 122 miles per hour on Interstate 540. Law enforcement says he was speed racing. The case is still pending. Jonathan Paler as well, charged with reckless driving on I-40, going an estimated 100 miles per hour. Again, I think about more serious cases in other areas, some in our area, when you're talking about potentially when you drive this way, life and death, and it just underscores the serious nature of this, of what this potentially can lead to. And when you're young, there's times you think that you're invincible too. I mean,
right.
You and I aren't, above. I've gotten pulled over for speeding before. I've gotten a speeding ticket before, but it's just you don't want to see the worst case scenario happen. And when you're driving that fast, you're not just putting yourself at danger, but potentially others as well.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, again, to why is this a story? Why are we doing this? Well, it's not just speeding. It's repeated infractions. It's repeated reckless infractions. And what is being done about it? And that's what we asked UNC before we published the report. They chose not to answer our questions, but did acknowledge that they were aware of it. Bill Belichick on the mic today in his press conference basically said nothing other than that they've addressed it and that they've addressed other issues off the field. So I'm kind of wondering, what are those other issues? Maybe something else for us to look at down the line. I think it's fair to wonder, how are the academics potentially being run at UNC? And I'm not saying I know that, but I think that's something I would like to know, is the attention to detail being put there. Because basically what we've seen is Belichick has implemented his NFL models. There's been kind of a lack of understanding of how things truly work in college, right? From not letting the non-travel roster dress to the lack of communication and relationships with parents, the way recruiting visits are run, the way he's dealing with players and their NIL agents. Like, there's a long list of examples here of how there's been kind of a disconnect with how he sees the program versus how it's actually playing out in real life. And this is potentially another example here where, is it his fault that the players are driving this fast? No, not explicitly, but now something needs to be done, because to your point, no one has gotten hurt yet. You know what I mean? Because we've seen people die in college sports, and I think this isn't necessarily a problem exclusive to UNC. I mean, we talked about the University of Georgia. You mentioned the NFL examples. Rashee Rice served a long suspension in the NFL this year. And when it comes specifically to college, what's changed? Well, NIL in the last few years. So we have young men, and when are probably all your speeding tickets are probably all mine. They were pretty much all between, I don't know, I was 18 and 22. Like, you're just dumb. You know what I mean? Like, you think you're invincible. You don't think rules apply to you. Like, I get it. I've been there, but it's not. I don't put this all on the players. Like, it's on the school. It's on Bill Belichick. It's on us as a community, and that's where the journalism comes in. Like, if nothing's being done, we've now shed a light on it, at least, so some people are aware and something can be done, or at least now some pressure put on Belichick and UNC. Let's
take everyone behind the curtain, if you will, Pat. And for people who are wondering, saying, why is this a story? Why are you reporting on this? Who cares? I'm going to steal Bill Belichick's line here, Pat. You're simply doing your job.
Yeah.
Simply doing your job. Okay. We talk about the football field.
Yes.
UNC hosts Duke this weekend. UNC needs 2 wins to become bowl eligible in the final 2 games of the regular season. Duke needing only 1 win. Duke a favorite going into this game. I look at how Bill Belichick talked about Darian Mensah today during the media availability, and you contrast that with the play of Gio Lopez. And Pat, I'm just like, what gives? Like, it's just like maybe Belichick wishes he had a quarterback like that, because he was gushing Darian Mensah's praises when he spoke to reporters today.
Thou shalt not covet thy rival's quarterback. It's got to be somewhere in the 10 commandments of how to discuss triangle rivalries. But who can blame him, right? When you've got Darian Mensah throwing for over 3,000 yards, 25 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and comes from a small school in Tulane. And it's almost like some of the hype that came around Gio Lopez almost came around the fact that it was a similar profile to Darian Mensah. Another guy coming from a small school, South Alabama, kind of a mystery. You almost assumed, Duke got this guy Darian Mensah from a small school. He's mobile. Bill Belichick got this guy Gio Lopez that nobody's ever heard of. He's a mobile quarterback, so maybe it's the same thing. No, they are not.
Hang on. Darian Mensah is like ESPN's number 3 overall transfer.
Fair.
And I'm going to say this too. When Lopez came in and when he transferred to UNC, I really think matters. I wish we could get across, and I know reporters have asked him, you have asked Bill Belichick this. Would you consider playing another quarterback other than Gio Lopez? And I know in the NIL era, he's making perhaps millions. We don't know the exact amount. But with 3 games left at most, you have 2 regular season games left. If you win both of those, if you're UNC, you go to a bowl game. Someone needs to tell Bill Belichick, hey, you could play Bryce Baker, you could play a Torrey Newkirk. They don't lose their redshirt status, Pat. Newsflash to everyone.
Hopefully he knows this, because there's been a lot of things that he hasn't.
It does not make any sense now that we have at most 3 games left. And especially once you get, if UNC loses this game to Duke on Saturday, and the Tar Heels would be eliminated from bowl eligibility, why wouldn't you see what either of those players have to offer as a glimpse of what you could potentially build with? I do understand the fact that if Lopez is making, let's say, millions in NIL money, you don't want to have your quarterback who's making millions sit on the sideline holding a clipboard. I do understand that. But you contrast that with, statistically, what Lopez has done this year compared to Darian Mensah at Duke, and I'm just like, how are you supposed to win games when you score 12 points? At any level of football.
No touchdowns. I mean, Lopez's numbers on the season, 1,425 yards, 8 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Darian Mensah has quite literally tripled him in every category but the picks, which he's got 1 less. They aren't producing. And if this was the NFL, like everything Belichick's trying to do is NFL-centric. If this was the NFL, he would be benched. Like, you cannot sustain the degree of public scrutiny that you would in the NFL and not try the next quarterback. If this was the NFL, I think that Freddie Kitchens would be fired as well. Like, but it's a different model here. Like, UNC gave Belichick the keys to the castle. He has all the power. He has all the leverage, unless they literally want to fire him. They can't really tell him what to do. You know what I mean? And he is, for whatever reason, stubborn on this issue. Now, I would say I would give him the benefit of the doubt that I believe him that this quarterback gives them the best chance to win. But I feel like we're warranted in our doubts given how things were run at the end in New England, the way things have been run here, to question his judgment. Like, at every step of the way, the judgment, I think, needs to be questioned, from Jordan Hudson on through the play on the field. Like, all of it, to the driving infractions that we just reported last week. Like, all of it leads to a case where what this guy says, you should not take it as gospel, like he's the 6-time Super Bowl champion coach that he is. Clearly, he has lost a step in what he's doing on the field and running this program.
When you pay $10 million for him, too, and you look at the other coaches in that same salary range, we're not debating, Pat, of, are you going to make a bowl game? And this is the same coach, too, who benched Drew Bledsoe for Tom Brady, who played Bailey Zappi over Mac Jones, who's made tough decisions before for the betterment of his team. And to me, it's just, even I think Max Johnson at this point would be a better option. I genuinely do believe that. How much better? I don't know. But then it goes to the NIL, and it's like, is there an agent that he doesn't want to upset, or someone he doesn't want to upset to where there's more repercussions than just the individual case of benching one single quarterback? Like, to say that he gives your team the best chance to win, if that actually is true, what does that say about the ability of the other quarterbacks on the roster, too? If I'm going to go all the way down that rabbit hole, too, I really think that they should have an opportunity in these next 2 games to show what they've got. And I especially believe that if we're talking a week from now, Pat, and UNC's season is done and over with after the finale against NC State, to me, there's no reason why you shouldn't have that opportunity to potentially play them. And then, okay, so if you're going to go into next season with Gio Lopez as your quarterback and is Freddie Kitchens as your OC, and to run that back, from what I've seen to this point in the season, that doesn't instill a lot of confidence in a 10-game sample size from what we've seen to this point for what that collective has been able to produce.
You simply cannot go into next season with Freddie Kitchens as your offensive coordinator and Gio Lopez as your incumbent starter. I guess if you're going to bring him back next year and have you bring in another transfer portal quarterback to push him, or that you're saying it's a true competition with Bryce Baker, Torrey Newkirk, and they have a pretty high-rated freshman coming in from the state of Georgia. But like to sell that to the fans that this season is going to go maybe 4, maybe 5 wins here, maybe not make a bowl game, and then you're just running it back. Like, good luck. Like, all the hype that came into this season will be completely gone. We've already seen at the Stanford game how little people were actually there and even staying through the end of a close game. The whole point in hiring Bill Belichick was to create buzz, was to create revenue, was to get this team into the college football playoff conversation. We are so far below that. The idea that he would run this back would be, for lack of a better word, insane to me. But I'm puzzled, Mark. I'm just as puzzled as you are. I know that parents are puzzled. I know that players are puzzled. I know that agents are puzzled. Like, nobody truly understands this. And it's just like, what is Lopez offering you? Like, he's not turning the ball over. I mean, he has turned the ball over. He didn't against Wake Forest, but he has in other games in the past. He's not scoring in the red zone. He's not giving you a run threat. And even if some of the younger quarterbacks, if you put in Newkirk or Baker, if they made mistakes, but were at least creating explosive plays or excitement or optimism, I think that would excite fans and they would be okay with the results, right? This is like the worst place to be in the NFL. You're a Steelers guy. You do a Steelers podcast. Where have they been for the last 7 years? Just in quarterback purgatory. That is the worst place to be as a fan.
It's hard to win. It's hard to win, like straight up when you're hamstrung, if you will, when you're not getting that quarterback play. I want to ask you one more UNC question, Pat, and then I do want to get to the Duke portion of this. Do you think UNC's season would be considered a failure if the Tar Heels fail to make a bowl?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the only way to save the season here is to beat NC State.
I would say to win both of these games, to where it's like, okay, that positive momentum, and then to see with winning, and not just, okay, improvement, but wins and losses, that's where I would put that. Because when I look at previous matchups, you look at what Jake Dickert has done at Wake Forest, and it's like they're paying him what we think substantially less compared to Belichick. Wake Forest, private school. But for $10 million per year for Belichick, it's just like, to me, this is not what you signed up for.
Yeah, regardless of all the excuses, regardless of the late start in the portal, regardless of all the guys he brought in the spring, every new college coach is dealing with those same situations. Jake Dickert at Wake Forest, who just beat you, didn't allow a touchdown against you, is dealing with all those same situations of getting paid a heck of a lot less. And you bring Bill Belichick in to beat Richmond, Charlotte, Stanford, and a third-string quarterback, Syracuse.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but a walk-on quarterback.
So yeah. You've got to beat a real team, and so far they have not done that. So I mean, I guess I'm just giving them winning one of two would surprise me, but I don't see it. Duke to talk about them. They've lost 3 of 5 games, so they're not exactly doing great either.
Hang on. I want to lighten the mood, Pat.
Yeah, we are.
I want to lighten the mood here. You got a Manny Diaz quote for us in advance of this UNC game, rivalry week.
And I think it's a great segue, right? Because all these programs are struggling, and Manny Diaz, his quote from the coach that brought you such great hits as architect of your own demise and failure as data. This week in Duke football, it's be the bully in your own neighborhood.
I love this.
And that's really all you got to do around here, because this is clearly a basketball town.
The shirts, be the bully.
We're not making the college football playoff around here in North Carolina, but if you could beat your in-state rivals, you could keep your job. So it all comes down to this.
I'll tell you what. Duke winning and then becoming bowl eligible, that's at stake. And then UNC trying to hang on, trying to win these final 2 in the 2 North Carolina teams that the Tar Heels will play down the stretch. Very exciting, Pat. I know you'll be there Saturday. We have a lot more to get to. NC State hosting Florida State. Pat, I want to start the conversation here. Do you have a birthday coming up?
February 17th. Yeah, I got a little bit. Yeah,
okay.
I'm not quite 40 yet, but yeah.
Okay.
Wonder where this could be going.
Well, I could pretend that I've got family members or friends that have birthday around the same time. For anyone who didn't see this or have no clue what we're talking about, the reporter's question after the NC State-Miami game. NC State loses to Miami 41-7. It tries to lighten the mood a little bit with Dave Doeren after the game.
I see what you're doing with the segue now.
Oh, man. It was just odd. I've watched and I've attended many of these media availabilities in my life, Pat. I've attended several. And you never know what a coach is going to say when they're hot after a loss, the emotions that they're going through. But, man, we thought that it might be an audition for C.J. Bailey, Miami, playing back in his hometown. It was not a great start for the Wolfpack. I mean, 2 picks in the first quarter.
Oh, no.
They were down multiple scores in the first quarter. But I don't know what ticks. Like, as soon as I think I have NC State figured out this year, I don't. Because it's like going into that Georgia Tech game, Wolfpack had lost 4 of 5. They somehow beat Georgia Tech at home, unbeaten Georgia Tech, if you will. And then down in Miami, it was like, man, the Hurricanes put the smack down on the Wolfpack. And so NC State, another team. Both of these teams, both NC State and Florida State, both at 5-5 going into this game, both playing for bowl eligibility. Friday night, Carter Finley Stadium. Maybe they can get that night magic that you get at Carter Finley Stadium, a tough place to play at night. And so it's just like, I could say I think that Florida State, as a 4.5-point favorite, has the upper hand going into this, Pat, but I don't know what the heck to expect.
No, I mean, how can you, right? When you come off a near perfect offensive performance versus Georgia Tech.
And without your 2 best offensive players in Hollywood Smother and Justin Joly against Georgia Tech.
To then be completely eviscerated by Miami, a team that seemed to play to their potential in that game, and that's unfortunate that NC State had to run into the good Miami because there's plenty of weeks when you don't see the good Miami. But, man, they sure did. And now everything we said about Dave Doeren after Georgia Tech, all the good things we said, that was him at his best. That's just him at his worst, and this is why so many fans are checked out. So now he's up against it here. I mean, he's got to win out, I would say, to keep his job, to create momentum, right? Because so much of this in college sports is about momentum. On the other side of the field, you got Florida State, who's looking at the same things with their coach, trying to lighten the mood. It's a sport that's hard to find a lightened mood. Nobody's happy, except for that reporter. Going back to that for a second, like, if you're going to do that, did you hear, like, the full exchange?
Yes. You need to see both questions the reporter asks. To Dave Doeren's credit, I thought he answered the first part in trying to just answer the question. But then to go back. Sometimes you double down in life. Sometimes you don't.
Short questions, right?
Yes.
Like, as somebody that has been I'm normally an interviewer. I got interviewed a few times in my life as well. And when you're on the other end of it and someone asks you a long-winded question, you start to lose track of what the question is. You're like, okay, I've got an answer here. Oh, now they're still talking. Okay, what are they asking? And that's when you get in an interview setting, they go, wait, can you repeat that? And that's when you know you asked a bad question. And this guy just goes on and on after the birthday thing.
41-7, and then to say, hey, your birthday's coming up, and it's like 3 weeks away. It's like, what does this have to do with anything?
Yeah, and I don't want to call it another reporter. I don't even know the person's name. I can imagine.
It was just weird.
It's weird on the road, right? So this is, from my understanding, a local Miami reporter. And if you're in the road team locker room, there's typically not a lot of local media that travels. So it might just be him and like 2 other people. So because you're hearing it, he's like, does this guy have a one-on-one with Dave Doeren? And Dave Doeren just has to sit with him? Well, he might have. Like, I don't know how many people really traveled from the Wolfpack beat. So that's kind of where you get some of the awkwardness. But Dave Doeren, talk about Manny Diaz with all of his quotes. Dave Doeren, whenever he throws out the S word, that's when you know he's really cooking. Because one of his best all-time quotes was after Virginia Tech, a win, mind you, a couple of years ago. He goes, blank, be happy we won. Well, this was blank, I do this blank for a living.
Here you go.
Which was just all-time Dave Doeren.
13-year run. if this is the end, we'll enjoy it. You got 2 games left here. So Florida State Friday night, Carter Finley, and then another game at Carter Finley Stadium. Both games will be sold out, hosting UNC in the final week of the regular season. Wolfpack are going to have to stop Tommy Castellanos, former Boston College and UCF quarterback of the Florida State Seminoles. Seminoles team that beat Bama earlier this year, and then just the wheels have fallen off that team there. Again, both teams need a win to become bowl eligible. We will see how that shakes out. You want to talk some college hoops before we wrap here?
Yes, talking about lightening up the mood. Undefeated triangle area hoops, baby. All 3 teams ranked.
We deserve it.
We're back.
We need it because the football season has just been this never-ending hamster wheel of the same storylines and problems. You know, because we're coming off a football weekend where all 3 teams lost. And to this point in the season, all 3 triangle teams undefeated, all 3 triangle teams ranked. It's just really exciting. I want to start with Duke knocking off Kansas at MSG, Champions Classic. Cameron Boozer, double-double. Caden getting into the mix and big baskets down the stretch. We were robbed, though, Pat, because Kansas without Darryn Peterson, hamstring injury, that's a matchup we were robbed of. So it's like I don't really know how much to take with Duke in this win against Kansas because, again, Kansas without its best player. But I'm looking at other ranked games before you get into conference play. Arkansas on Thanksgiving Day, Florida on December 2nd, Michigan State December 6th, Texas Tech on December 20th, going back to MSG. So we'll know more about the Blue Devils as they face stiffer competition here in the coming weeks. But this was a matchup I really wanted to see with Boozer going up against Peterson, likely 2 lottery picks, and we did not get to see that this week.
What we do know is that Duke is at least the most battle-tested of our triangle area teams. You're right. There's no Darryn Peterson in this game. It's still a ranked Kansas team, still a blue blood, neutral court. They've also played and beat Texas on a neutral court as well. Now, Texas isn't highly regarded necessarily this year, but it's a real basketball team, which is more than you can say about what a lot of teams have faced this year. And look, this looks like another John Shire team. They take on the personality of their coach. They play hard. They play smart. They play defense. They're very just sophisticated in everything that they do, very thoughtful in everything they do. And their team has a multitude of ways that they can beat you. And I think their depth was flexed in this game. I think their defensive versatility as well. I go back to, I've made this point before, when Dame Sarr and Malik Brown are in the mix, it gives this team just a level of length and a level of flexibility defensively that makes them very tough to play against. And Boozer, Cameron Boozer, is clearly just a man among boys. Like his physicality and his ability to affect the game, even when he's not shooting the ball well, his ability to rebound, get to the rim, that full court pass he threw.
Incredible.
Unbelievable.
Incredible.
Jokic-esque. So that's the kind of stuff you're dealing with. I think the question with them is going to reveal itself in the NCAA tournament. Like they look like a team that could win the ACC tournament even if they were missing a couple pieces as they did last year. But I wonder, because the one downfall of these John Shire teams is how do they respond to adversity? How do they respond to a team that punches them in the mouth? Because in the tournament, we've seen them lose to Tennessee. We've seen them lose to Houston inexplicably down the stretch. And when you're operating in a near perfect environment at Duke, as far as the level of talent you have, the level of resources you have, this kind of bubble you get to operate in there, it's a different level of kind of, and then you're always the front runner, right? You're always the team everybody's gunning for. It's like Notre Dame football. You get everybody's best shot. So will this team have the character and the experience in the NCAA tournament? The only way we're going to know that is time.
I like their mix of freshman players and players that are coming back. Isaiah Evans, slim, dropping 16.
So
dropping 16 for the Blue Devils. All right, UNC knocking off Navy, 73-61. Tar Heels improved 5-0, number 18 in the top 25. It's the Caleb Wilson show yet again.
Yeah.
And let me just put it this about when we talk about CW. Like, we talk about that dunk, but filling up the stat sheet, Pat.
Oh, yeah.
23 points, 12 rebounds, 4 steals, 3 blocks. It's not just the scoring. It's like every facet of the game.
And when he goes off the floor, they're a different team. You
Okay,
feel
you
it.
noticed that. You noticed that.
Totally. I mean, there were stretches in this game where UNC just went completely cold. And credit to Navy, who
hung in the game.
I mean, they had the recipe for the upset as best they could, switching between man, zone, matchup zone, full court pressure, which really allowed Carolina to never get in a full rhythm. But when Wilson's on the floor, the sheer motor and athleticism just transcends. It elevates the whole team.
3 straight double-doubles for him, too. So it's like it's not just the scoring ability with him. It's finding other ways to impact the game. And, that is as impressive where everyone's going to see the highlight dunk, YouTube, X.
Dunks.
Yeah. Sorry, I should plural. My bad.
Plural. But I know the one you're talking about, which was a play I feel like I've seen him try to make several times this year, and then he kind of runs into the contact, can't quite elevate through it. But he's doing kind of a Euro step, shimmy, 1-2 step, and just slam in transition. Unbelievable dunk. As much as hype was made about Cooper Flagg's dunk against Pitt last year, this is better than anything Cooper Flagg did last year as a singular highlight. Absolutely unbelievable play.
That Pitt dunk didn't do it for you, Pat?
I think this was better.
I don't know about that.
I think it was better. I think he's more explosive. The shimmy, Flagg just slammed it on a guy's head. There was more sophistication to this dunk.
Okay.
We're getting to sports talk radio.
We're getting into the
Which dunk was better?
Yeah. It's like Mike and the Mad Dog. I love it. We're going to agree to disagree on that one. Stiff competition UNC faces against Michigan State on Thanksgiving Day, December the 2nd against Kentucky as well. So we'll know more about the Tar Heels as you move closer to conference play, but those are 2 ranked matchups that Tar Heels have on their schedule. All right.
Before we get to state, I got one more thing.
Lay it on me.
Players only meeting. Now, I wasn't at this game last night. God forbid I took a day off.
Yeah, that's not allowed, Pat.
Right? I take a day off. It's a dunk fest between Caleb Wilson.
Were you a little bit
Jaren
sad you weren't
Stevenson.
in the Dean Dome?
I'm watching at home on my couch, and I'm like, that's because I filmed the games too, and I'm like, oh, I'm not getting these highlights. This is brutal. Jaren Stevenson really delivered. Shout out to Jaren Stevenson. He's been great. But I bring this up because I was reading some of the articles today. Players only meeting called. And I've seen this before where sometimes you're covering a UNC game, and every once in a while, UNC takes a long time to come out. And according to reporters that were at the game, this was one of those nights. 20 minutes for the players to come out. And the reason? A players-only meeting. Caleb Wilson told reporters that blank shouldn't happen, which I love, right? Because UNC, as much as I love Caleb Wilson, UNC is showing the similar problems that we've seen repeatedly under Hubert Davis. These slow starts, these kind of entitled moments where they seem to just think because they're wearing North Carolina on their chest that they can and should win. And we've seen that with this UNC team already, despite them being, I think, the most talented team we've had under Hubert Davis. So I like that the players are showing the leadership to try to squash this now, but I also don't love that we're needing to call a players-only meeting here 5 games into the season.
I'm just surprised to hear that, considering that they're still undefeated. Usually when you talk about a players-only meeting, you're talking about a team that's been down on its luck and lost several games or games that they shouldn't. So to hear that with an undefeated team, it just raises an eyebrow for me, Pat.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to look at it. Ultimately, I look at it as a positive that the players are addressing this now and not just blowing it off and thinking because we won by 12 that it was enough. And look, I mean, they were up by 24 with 5 minutes to go. But I don't care who's in the game. You're UNC basketball. You can't be going on 4-minute stretches without scoring. I like this team. I think they have what it takes to go to the Final Four. The only thing that's going to hold them back is this kind of, to use Hubert Davis's words, energy and effort, focus, attention to detail. So nip it in the bud now is what you need to do, and just hopefully this isn't a character trait that persists.
NC State hangs on against UAB on Monday night, the stiffest test for the Wolfpack.
VCU.
Oh, what did I say?
UAB. Another team they played.
I was getting
letters.
Teams mixed up from earlier in the year. Knocking at UNC. Let me restart this. NC State knocking off VCU on Monday night. And
one of Will Wade's former schools.
Yes. We've seen quite the performance from Darrion Williams for the Wolfpack, and I think There's a reason, like I've seen to this point in this season with Wolfpack ranked again, but why he was an all Big 12 player. Because, again, another player where you could talk about his scoring, but the attention that he garners offensively it's impressive to watch, but it's just like he's your first option, but he does a good job to where if he gets doubled, knows where to kick the ball to. If you're going to single him, he's going to cook you all day long. And so we see that yet again. And it's just like, I just like the depth of this team. I like Darrion Williams, Trey Holloman, another transfer from Michigan State. And it was the toughest test I thought NC State's had to this point in the season. So it's just like I'm looking at this as how they can keep it going. And I tried to tell you, Pat, that we were going to have 3 ranked teams, and here we are.
Here we are. Yeah, and you talk about taking on the personalities of their coach. And this NC State team is certainly built in the mold of Will Wade. I mean, they are scrappy, they are gritty, they are fiery, they are edgy, but they lack a little bit of polish, and they lack a little bit of length. And I think that's where this team is super defensive-minded, but similar to Carolina last year, when you lack that positional size, it just affects how regardless of how much effort you put in, what you're able to do. And Duke and UNC have that length this year, where NC State does not, and I think it's hurting them a little bit early on in the season.
I think it's more so the lack of like a true 5, where Van Allen Lubin is your 5, and he's a good player down low, but he's not as tall as you'd expect a starting 5 to be, even for a college team.
Yeah, and they missed on Paul Mbaya, who's played sparingly in that Kansas game. Maybe he could have been it. I mean, I think they're going to figure it out. Like I talked about Carolina looking like a team that could make the Final Four. NC State, I wouldn't say is the team you would like pencil in as your Final Four in your bracket, but they look to me like the kind of team that would surprise you, like that would make the Final Four, like as a lower seed, almost like a Michigan State, kind of this like scrappier team that gets hot at the right time, that has the character, that has the edge to get through the tournament. And they clearly have the depth of scoring. They have Darryn Williams, who's going to be night in, night out, 20-plus points per game. He's already, 23.2 on the season. Who that second guy is going to seem to be a rotating cast of characters, because the other night it was Paul McNeil versus UNCG, and then he has an off night against VCU here, and it's Trey Holloman who steps up. So I think it's going to be a rotation of Holloman, Copeland, Matt Abel, Paul McNeil, who will become that second scorer.
Do you think Monday night's game meant a little bit more to Will Wade, considering he'd coached at VCU?
Had to have. I mean, and he spoke really fondly of it. I was at the UNCG game, and he spoke fondly of VCU. I mean, he was a manager at VCU at one point? I'm trying to remember, like, the full he was obviously the head coach, but he has this classic, like, arc of the guy starts as a manager, works his way up. He even said about VCU that he got out of there too fast. He was in too much of a hurry to leave. And I think that's an interesting lesson for all of us. Like, we're all hoping to get the big dream job. Appreciate the one you have. Appreciate the one that you're in the moment on. So, yeah, I think it meant something to him to beat his former school. It seemed to mean something to VCU to play a coach that had coached at their school, because they sure seemed fired up to play in this game.
All right, so Friday night you're going to be at Carter Finley Stadium, NC State hosting Florida State. And then Saturday, UNC hosting Duke. Pat, is there anything else you want to get to before we wrap up here?
I hate computers.
Oh, man.
I mean, we had a technical difficulty with this podcast. We've made it, Mark. We were like Bill Simmons on The Ringer. We had to start over. So there's 20 minutes of good podcast fodder you all are never going to hear.
It's in the ether, folks.
And I almost threw my computer through a wall today.
Oh.
The things I say to my computer, I mean, no human should. God bless Heidi Kirk, who was in the same room as I'm saying things to my computer that no human should ever have to hear. Maybe no human should hear. Maybe no computer should either, because it's an AI world now, and computers have feelings too.
Some people have road rage. Pat Welter, you've got computer rage.
Hey, when you got to edit the amount of video I do under a deadline, it's tough to keep your composure. But we persist. The podcast got on. The notes were printed out. Thank you, printer, for being functional today. I didn't have to yell at you.
He's the one and only Pat Welter. I'm Mark Bergen. Thanks for watching and listening to WRAL Triangle and 2 on YouTube. If you haven't already, hit the like and subscribe button here on the WRAL YouTube page. And Apple and Spotify. We need some more 5-star reviews on Apple. If it's a funny review, we can read it here on the pod as well, Pat. So go leave us a 5-star review, Apple and Spotify. Pat, as always, a pleasure.
Send emails to us, pwelter@WRAL.com. We'll read them. Let's get some fan engagement. Let the people speak.
So long, everybody.